Can
All right, we have swapped over to the stream, and I think we got the last parts. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another night of the Hotter Trash podcast with your host, Brian.
your co-host Victor?
Your
It's your
permanent
special
guest star,
guest.
Michael.
Your special guest, Nibble. You will never know my name. We already know my name. All right,
I
continue.
yeah, we hold on a second. How did
Anyways,
what the
Continue.
all right, moving on to the point. So hopefully from last week's podcast, it was mostly like me and our guests like talking a lot, and it's also just me talking a lot in the past few episodes. So I wanted to at least do my best to make sure you guys feel involved, if that helps. But nonetheless, we'll go ahead and start with tonight's topic. In this case, we all talk about esports and decline of why NA
yay,
sucks.
esports. NA garbage, yay.
All right, so a bit of a context and question for everybody here as like a fun way to get started talking. What was the first esports that you remember watching?
Uh, uh, Halo 3, I think.
Yes, Halo indeed.
You know,
Mhm.
Back
I
in the good
would-
old days.
I actually saw like Counter Strike as my first esports, but I don't remember which tournament it was. And then later, League of Legends became more popular, and with that, yeah, this is pretty much where we're going to be talking about. Is in this case, let's go a little bit of history with esports here. So, based on everybody's recognition of esports, it is especially in this case a sporting event that revolves around gamers, and based on the games that they play on. Now, for a time too, back in like 20, do we want to say 2014, 2012 was like the prime time era esports?
Well, the
I
early
don't-
years of League for sure, but I don't know about other esports.
Yeah. So, in this case, we'll give it in context of League of Legends here. Back around those years, like 2014 and before, those were prime times for like a lot of esports events in general,
Mhm.
where everybody was actively talking about it and everybody actively played the game as well. Now, what I'm trying to like really like narrow this back into, let me see here. Where's my script?
My script.
Ah,
Stick to the
shit.
script, Brian.
Yeah, fuck. Ah, well, I don't got a script, so it's gonna be off the top of the dome now. Whatever. So, if anything, compared to like the esports events that are happening before, now this can include League of Legends, but it could also be about anything else. Do you think esports scenes has changed much over the last few years, at least?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. I mean, I just see it mostly as a way for companies to try to get involved and make money.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my eyes, I just see a lot of esports teams just essentially become businesses
Yeah.
rather than actually teams playing the game,
Yeah.
which is
And-
very interesting.
So in this case, for everybody, at least to the two of y'all too, do you think it's honestly interesting too, where like the esports events at this point that are participating are mostly like company brand names instead of like your usual like teams?
What do you mean by that?
So like before, I'll say like let's take for example like season 2 or 3 of League of Legends. Sure, there were like in this case some like teams that were like company based, but they were not really like that before. As let's say TSM was essentially 5 people and maybe one other person. But at the end of the day, it was only just 5 people just competing. Nowadays, it's not just like 5 teams that are playing on stage. It's now like the coaches, the content creator crew, the marketing crew, the nutritionist group apparently too.
What?
They all have like their own chefs and everything.
So that's the current state right now with the LCS. So I guess if anything, this is also where we're going to be diving into, where let's be honest, in the NA scenes of LCS, it's been doing terrible.
Yeah.
As in, like, viewerships have gone way lower than it was even from last year. Right now, based on the stats that I saw on here, LCS has only seen a peak viewership around 223,000 concurrent viewers. So, and it's just like, that still sounds a lot too, but like before that too, they were actually around 300,000. And then the year before that was 500,000. They were still garnering views, but it seems as though there has always been a decreasing trend with the ever like common like splits that occur. That's how we kind of consider like a lot of these esports tournaments here in at least League of Legends scene. They call them splits. But really it was all because of the fact that all of what these splits kind of lead up to is the World Championship for League of Legends, which is usually the biggest event ever for the games. And there's like a lot of, in this case, a lot of burned out like enthusiasm whenever we finally see like an NA team that make it out of groups to compete in Worlds, where really there's not a lot of hope for them, essentially. That is the general consensus about all this. Now, to pose this question to you guys here, do you think right now that the NA scenes, why we can never win Worlds, do they just inherently suck at the game? Or if anything, not a lot of people just, or there's not a lot of people to really like garner new talent?
I mean, I don't think there's not enough people. There are definitely people. I think it's just America's approach to esports is just absurdly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about money and all about paying the highest money, highest price you can for talent, but that's not how you like get good people.
Mm-hmm. In this case too, like what makes like in this case like LCK or the LEC different? For those that don't know, LCK is the Korean version of the LCS and LEC is the European.
Yes.
Or the
Personally, I
LPL,
think
which is
they-
the China scene.
I think they just are willing to like invest into like new rookies and stuff, not like just trying to buy out players.
Yeah, because that
I
is
mean,
something
granted,
that
there are players from like Korea. I mean, regions like EU and China do like recruit players from Korea and stuff, but regardless, they do generally try to train their own rookies.
yeah, which is also something that is happening right now, and I've heard a lot of arguments that in North America too, this is also like defending the existence of the Challengers series. But overall, a lot of people don't really give a fuck about the Challenger series. That was also the reason why there was a whole strike that occurred, such that they were gonna think about like actually cutting out the Challenger split series in general.
They should. I don't think Challenger has. I mean, NA Challengers, anyways. They don't. They aren't interesting. They don't seem like they're doing anything for these players. They're just essentially a sub tournament for
Yeah.
the NALCS. I don't know. I just don't see them as like a useful way of recruiting talent.
Yeah. And it's also still doesn't help too that like we hear too that a lot of North American teams want to like actually bring like local talent into the group, but based off what I've seen so far, it's apparently they're not doing hard enough job to like actually like bring people on board. But it's also
What do you
again
mean?
too, really like despite like the whole challenger teams, like their only existence is so that one they can play their way or work their way up to become playing the main roster. 9 times out of 10 that never actually happens. If anything, people from the main spotlight actually get demoted to the challenger series, and then they get like their positions filled out or get hired out by a contract from another region.
Yeah, mainly Korea or
Yeah.
EU. Hey,
Yeah.
and NA is recruiting a lot of the EU players too.
Yeah. Oh man, we could go into a lot of topics, but if anything, Michael, do you got any questions about all this? I'm pretty sure you probably do.
I have a ton, but I mean, let me just keep listening so I can formulate them better.
All right. So in this case, we're gonna give at least a hot take about this too. This will revolve around like Mostly we're going to be talking about LCS because that is probably the only esports that at least majority of us kind of keep up or used to keep up with. I don't watch it as much anymore, but I hear about it every now and then. But yeah, the main problem that I have always seen what's going on with the LCS, and it's like everybody kind of also agrees to, they keep all the teams too that play for NA or that are in the NA or seats. They never really try to like spend the time to like train like rookies to play at this level that they want them to be. And if anything, it's much cheaper and much more efficient to just buy out another player's contract from another region that's really good. Which, if you look at the numbers case too, sure, it makes more sense to do it that way. But unfortunately too, because how the nature of League of Legends is a team-based game, you're gonna literally throw someone in that also has a language barrier with the rest of the team. I don't know. It feels like in a lot of cases they could do all they can to like accommodate the player, but it's like at this point too, they're gonna spend so much time trying to accommodate the player that they could have used that time and effort to train someone new from their own local regions.
Yeah,
At least that's how.
There's
that
a
is a hot
problem.
take, I
There's a
guess.
problem with. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a hot take. There's a serious problem about recruiting other people from different regions because
Mhm.
if you recruit a good player, then I mean, the player may be good individually, but maybe good with the team that he was previously on, but once you put him into to his new team, to an NA team, the dynamic is completely different. So they don't play the same. They aren't able to play as well as they do. And
Yeah.
the way NA plays is completely different. So you just essentially wasted your money by getting a
Yeah.
good player on a bad team.
What do you mean NA plays differently?
There's
Every
been known
region
to
essentially
go
has
for it.
every region essentially has their own play style when
Mhm.
it comes to like League. There's different metas, there's different ways to play, different understandings of a game that leads to different ways to play the game.
Yeah.
Like in
So
this
Korea
case.
is usually on top because they have a better understanding than the rest of the world.
Yeah, they have
But
better
go ahead,
understanding of
Brian.
the rest of
Go
the world.
further, further explain.
So in this case, too, the way how to really figure this out too, the LCK is really known for the fact too that like they have like the best understanding of the game and a lot of metas too, and they can formulate like a lot of like flexible strategies here and there too. That's why in this case too, we always see the trend in Worlds too. The best team in Worlds when it comes to Korea is always the second or third place team, not the first place.
Mhm.
It usually tends to be the case, yes.
Yeah, but so if anything, it's like that's just the culture in like Korea where they're all the players too constantly like hit up like the gaming labs too, or like the PC cafe or the mukbangs, or actually no, mukbangs is something else.
Not the mukbang.
Sorry,
I was
sorry,
like, wait,
that sounded
wait.
hella
How did
racist.
it-
Please, I didn't mean it.
I was thinking more. What does it have to do with League?
Oh
So,
my god.
sorry.
Mukbang. The PC
Sorry.
bongs?
Yeah, PC bong. That's what I was going for.
PC
My bad.
mukbangs.
Close enough. Anyways, PC bongs. So if anything, in Korea, there's like a whole culture of like competitiveness in general for any game that they play there. So obviously, too, all the players are going to be top in form, essentially. Whereas in the EU, it's actually almost the same as well, too. Except in this case, what EU is technically known for is their batshit aggression, depending on which team you follow. Like, if anything, you think of like where Koreans are much more methodical. In this case, they will make sure to like look at where they are at before they make an objective. Whereas the EU, they go for the whole purpose of try to start as many fights as you can. Try to make sure you keep putting them on their toes all the time so that at some point they're going to be bound to make a mistake. But it's also like it works both ways kind of deal. If if one team can anticipate your aggression, they could make a plan around that. Like this is more or less a high level play that occurs. NA used to be that as well, where they were like taking the parts of the Korean like strategies, being able to be methodical about it. But whenever there's an opening, they're very precise and concise with their leads. That was the case until like I will say this, past 2016. That is the hot take there. I think all the NA teams actually started to not look promising after that point.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah. And and this has been coming from me where I used to look up into C9, but even then they started showing a lot of like questionable stuff. This is just me like going out on like some fanboyish thing. Like I did support C9, but goddamn, it was so hard to like really support any dumb decisions that they do in game, because the best way that a lot of people do enjoy esports is that they kind of just have to know how to play the game in general. That's how you get the best experience out of that, because you can understand what the pros are doing. But sometimes it's like it's infuriating when you see like strategies that they're throwing out and it's like, wait, that's, you should not have done that way, even though you do your best to like put the expectation that they probably don't know what the other team is doing. But even then, that's like still that was like the whole state of like NA scenes and like a lot of fan bases for any of the NA teams. It was just like them trying to justify themselves about like keep supporting the team even though they keep making questionable decisions.
Yeah, that's goes around the world, or
Yeah.
even sports.
Yeah.
Like
I
sports.
mean, they make even worse decisions when it comes to money. That's the
Yeah.
crazy part. These NA teams are
Yeah, they're
very bizarre in the way they spend money.
yeah. If anything, I think everybody here has heard the news, but unless you want to hear this, Michael, how much would you think like let's say a foreign player's contract would be to come over to play for a North American team? Let's just say, for example, in Korea.
Well,
Let's make
I
a-
know the
let's
amount
just
that they
add a
did
little
pay.
bit more. Let's add a little more context. Not a
Yeah.
Korean team, but a member of a team that was second place in the World Finals, coming over to
So-
America. How much do you think his contract is?
I know the amount, but if I had to assume, like if I didn't know, I genuinely don't even know what they get paid typically. But if I had to, it would probably be low six figures is what I would have assumed. But I know how much they actually paid for the guy.
Hold on.
How much?
Continue on real quick,
It would-
guys. I'm gonna search it up.
It was in the millions, wasn't it?
Indeed, it was. It was $6 million for this
Yeah.
one guy
Who
that
was
was
this?
from
All right,
it
go
was
for it.
support from a, forgot which team. I'm sure it was a Chinese team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was from a Chinese team. So a North American team called TSM recruited this guy for signed this guy onto the team for $6 million.
Who was it?
You want to
again?
know how long he played?
Not very long.
He played for a split or two splits. Essentially, it was a year. It was within the year. After that, he kind of left.
Why did he leave?
So essentially, I don't know the reason. I just know it left. Plus, during the time that he played for the team, he was not good. He was
Yeah.
not doing well at all.
Yeah, and also to answer your previous question too, NALCS players make above 320,000 per year, and some players earning up to 2.6 million per year, depending on
the-
contracts.
What? Dude, I need to stop being
The-
in physics. I need to go straight for like sports, like
You gonna be a
esports.
pro
dude.
gamer.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
No, but
you don't
either
even
way,
have to be
like,
the
it's
pro gamer.
ridiculous.
You can-
These business decisions that these esports teams make is appalling, and I think this contributes to the downfall of NA esports.
Yeah.
They're just literally throwing money into the trash bin and
Yeah.
just lighting it on fire. I mean, like, this guy literally played only for one split. His name is Sword Art, by the way. Should be fine.
Oh, Sword Art. Yeah, that was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was also the whole meme that got thrown around where they renamed TSM's name to be throws instead of Team Solo Mid. It's throw $6 million.
Yeah, through 6 million. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
God.
These guys are all like they make extremely questionable decisions. I mean, this is the thing about NA. They don't train their own guys. All they do is try to recruit good people. But this is what I'm saying. Like, recruiting an individual guy that was on a good team doesn't mean he'll be good on a bad team.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
or it won't make the team any better than than they already are. So that's the biggest issue that American esports teams just cannot seem to comprehend.
Yeah. And also here's the very funny thing about it too, is the fact too, like the prize pools for like the splits. Let's see, the total prize pool, at least for LCS summer of 2023, is record around $200,000. That's their prize pool. I'm looking at this, I'm like, wait, hold on a minute. Why is that number so small? And if that's the case, then
And worlds first place, worlds finals first place is only $1 million.
yeah,
I think there's also another pool or something, but either way, I know the general prize pool is $1 million. The base prize pool is $1 million.
hmm let's see, because that was
So-
a question. Yeah. Oh,
Why
sorry.
are
Go
they?
for it.
No, why are they willing to pay? I think I might know the answer to it, but I'll ask anyway. Why do you think they're gonna pay so much money for these people when the winning pool is like a fraction of what they'll spend on a team?
But
Becau-
they're also,
Hmm.
this team also has a record of not winning the finals, so there's that too. Not winning the world finals, where the actual like huge prize pool is.
Mhm.
Yeah. As of the World Championship 2022, it was around $2.225 million.
That's total, right? That's not that 2 million split up across all of them, and then first place gets $1 million. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If anything, that is prize pool, so it is all together. But to answer your question though, Michael, like what even is it to the teams? A lot of times too, that was also a question I believe this guy's Toast, another streamer, when he decided to make his own challenger team. He then asked the question of, how do esports team make money? Because
Sponsors.
yeah,
Yes.
that is literally all the esports team is actually like surviving off of our like sponsorship money. Now, coming from in this case from a financial like or personal finance episode from last week, this sounds like a very bad way to keep your company afloat.
Indeed, it's not sustainable. Like, what
Yeah.
happens when the sponsorship just pulls all their money out? Because you're not winning and you're not doing anything to make them money. So, like, why would they keep giving you money?
Yeah. And there's also the fact too, like the recent FTX. Yeah, TSM is not doing so hot.
TSM FTX. That's funny
Yeah.
because I know Riot was like very against that.
Yeah, they were really against it, and lo and behold, they somehow TSM managed to shoot themselves in the foot with that one. To be fair, I don't think there was like a
Well,
lot
they
of
gotta
money being
make money
driven into.
somehow.
Yeah, apparently they didn't put FTX didn't really put that much money into them, nor did TSM actually get that much money from them in the first place. But it was still to the point too that it rationalized them to like make, I don't know how much is their gaming lab, Victor, if you remember that building.
Oh yeah, the gaming lab. They were
So-
like a couple $100 million, I think, right? Okay,
Yeah.
actually, maybe let me make sure because that was a controversy.
Yeah. So, and also on top of this, Michael, a lot of these esports teams also, at this point, they're not really teams of like just like pro gamers. Now they're literally a company or, yeah, they're just straight up a business
Yeah.
corporation.
50 million.
50 million. God damn. And it's like the prize pool is 200,000 split up. I don't know. Again, how do these esports team actually make money outside of just sponsorship deals? And then if you're telling me that merch sales is what keeps them afloat, I don't fucking believe
I
you.
mean, granted, these teams do have like teams in other games too,
Mhm.
so there's also that. But either way, like I don't know if they win a lot in those other games, but I still can't imagine it's enough to cover all of this.
Yeah. That's like in this case the general nature about a lot of the esports as well too. And this is also started sort of having a rippling effect to other esports genre, like for example Apex Legends. Now, this is more or less like we don't know too much about it, but this is also starting from like a range of like when battle royales becoming more popular to like watch, and then the gaming developers decide to build competitions around them. In this case, Fortnite competition, and then the Apex Legends hosted by EA itself. Now, how much do you think right now people still watch Fortnite, guys?
Often.
Now,
I do think it's a lot, even though I don't watch it.
so give me 1 second because I did actually have a number that showcases some very striking numbers from here. So this one, I'm unfortunately gonna bust out the Microsoft Paint here real quick. So if any of you guys are watching this stream too, yeah. So here is the numbers here, but for you that are not paying attention, I'll also post it in chill chat as well in our Discord channel. So these are ranking based off the years. Look at what happened to Fortnite from 2019 to 2020.
Are you showing
I
it on the
declined a lot.
podcast?
But
Yeah,
then again,
It's not up there.
well, it's not on the pod.
Oh, hold on. There it is. Okay, there it is. So yeah, look at the
This-
look at that number from 2019 to 2020.
I
Can
mean,
you zoom in on it?
Fortnite was like when
Oh,
was
yeah.
it released? Around that time, right?
Yeah.
2017. Yeah, so 2018, 2019, that's fine because that's when it was like early when they were it just came out essentially.
Yeah, but to have a viewership drop that low, like at that,
I guess.
that is like, what the hell?
They have a massive prize pool, Christ.
Yeah, $51 million prize pool. Holy
51 million.
God damn. Now,
How much
this
does
is
the top one take? The top I don't remember when the top one, how much the top took.
yeah, right now at that point.
But either
that
way,
will get
regardless,
into semantics here.
2020, what happened that made him just like,
I think
I guess everybody just lost interest in Fortnite. I don't blame them. I think the way they changed the game is, or it became a base builder game. That's when people started not really liking it.
yeah, I mean that is like a very good point too. It's like Fortnite itself just ended up becoming like unwatchable just because like the rate of which how much people actually want to care about playing the game goes down just because they're literally being outclassed by normal things. Like if anything, the normal Andes, I will call them, are kind of like dropping the game because like they honestly could not compete against like ADHD cracked out players.
Yeah, that just build walls. Like you
In,
can
like,
just build a whole
millisecond.
mansion in like 2 seconds. Yeah.
No, Fortnite was very skilled. Like there was a skill differential. Like there's no way to explain it. Like you just
Yeah.
get outclassed easily
Yeah.
because somebody that spends time building will just be better than somebody who's good at shooting. Because if they don't know how to build, they just get high ground.
Yeah.
And a lot of the because a lot of the game, like back then, like early Fortnite was just building, and people who were building are really good. Because TSM, like going back to TSM, they had a really good lineup. I forgot who their third player was, but they had Daquan and Hamlins. So both of those guys, if you watch them play, they go into solo lobbies and they actually win these lobbies, and it's only because they know how to build and they can back it up with their gameplay. So early Fortnite was just built around that.
Yeah. And like this is really not really to bash on like the Fortnite community too, because apparently they claim that the game has gone better because half the time too they also took away the building aspect of the game, which apparently made the game that much more playable.
I agree.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
So
I haven't watched
Fortnite's
Fortnite in
not
a while.
Fortnite's
so-
not a bad game. I think we just meme it a lot.
yeah, we meme it a lot too, just because of the fact there's so many fucking guest characters that are featured in that game. It's like, why the fuck is Master Chief doing the mollywop?
I don't know, man.
And why is All Might just hitting me with the gritty? It's just like
That's the
too
best
many people. It's so many things that are happening in that whole series that like I don't even know if it's a game anymore. I feel like I'm on the acid trip when I look at that game.
Maybe like that, man.
Yeah. So
Indeed.
if anything, this is like the number statistics for like Fortnite, for example. But you can clearly see too. Then you have Apex Legends, who apparently they have a big resurgence as of lately. I don't know what exactly happened here, But you can definitely see around 2020, 2021 era, they actually had like a big drop in viewership. Now, I don't know if there was like any like drama that occurred too, because viewerships also like play into like what type of shit was happening during that as well. This could also be attributed to the fact that like COVID was going around as well. Maybe there weren't
Yeah,
like
but that,
enough like pro players that a lot of people really cared about going, as a lot of them were forced to be on lockdown.
I don't. How's that a problem really? Because I
Mhm.
mean, they're just playing behind a computer screen. They're not playing at home.
Yeah, most of them are. But at least like with these events, they do play in person. Now, based off what
I
I see
mean,
from,
a lot of them played at home during those times. So
yeah,
there's that.
yeah, and this is like, I'm just going to go through like a lot of examples of like stuff that people have been doing too. And then there's CS:GO. Holy shit. Now, this is something that I don't think you see a lot of esports do, but then I will talk into another one at some point. Now, I'm classifying at least, oh, hold on. Let me get the better picture here so that it looks a lot better. Probably not, but if anything, this is already scuffed to begin with, so bear with it, everybody. Here we go. This is Counter or CS:GO. Look at those numbers versus their prize pool.
Counter Strike has always been very popular. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's
I don't think this is a surprise.
yeah. I don't think it's a surprise really, but honestly, it's respectable how they managed to keep those numbers like consistently.
Yeah.
And then there's like that
There's
huge
something about,
spike in
I mean,
2021.
there's definitely something about Counter Strike that feels very, I don't know how to say it.
I
They're
think it's like
just,
viewer. It's like watcher friendly kind of shit. Like you can look at the game and then understand what is happening to it and appreciate it without like having any like play knowledge, nor do you need to be up to that skill needed.
I
Because at the
suppose,
time
I
it's
suppose.
kind of, because one of the things I've noticed too, that like I even have friends that watch it as well, they're not exactly good at playing the game either, but they know like a lot of like the terminologies that they throw out, a lot of the strategies that they pull off, and a lot of it is mostly because like the most common thing is, for at least what makes it different, is that the engagement of the viewers is almost equal to how the players themselves feel when playing these matches, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Mhm.
Like in most cases, you could definitely tell, like, because we play League of Legends, sure, we're not good at the game too, but we understand the game to a certain extent too, that these players should be playing at a much more higher level than what we are already playing at. That's why we watch them, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But obviously, right now with League of Legends, it doesn't appear to be that way too. But it's also like, for me, this is given a context that I've noticed in the years in League of Legends. Everybody overall has been like mechanically been able to play better, generally speaking. This won't like take into account of like other scenarios such as, oh, pretty much all the bad players kind of left too. But even if you take that into account, everybody overall still managed to actually improve their play a lot better. Therefore, a lot of times too, there seems like a stronger dissonance of, in this case, League of Legends teams fans when it comes to like any decisions that they make. I don't know. Maybe that's me putting my tinfoil hat and like over analyzing the situation.
Perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps indeed. But I want to take you into this case, a well-respected like esports scene, but then later they actually fell because of like recent like company tragedies or like drama that happened, and that is Overwatch.
Oh yes.
Overwatch.
Yep, look at these numbers here, like holy shit. Like you definitely see they started off strong and then it dropped immediately. The only reason why you see that 2022 spike actually come up to was because, if I remember with that context, it was either A, they did announce the fact that Overwatch 2 was gonna be happening, and B, they managed to rebalance the game to the point where it's actually watchable again. But even then too, you see 2023 happen and it just plummets.
Mm.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be honest too. A lot of like the numbers I see for a lot of these esports, I feel very disheartened too because the esports market is such like a popular and something that's like an untapped market. But unfortunately, there's a lot of things that are going on that's making a lot of these teams actually make very dumb decisions. But I don't even know how to really consider that anymore because I can't even look at these as like teams anymore. They're just companies now.
Yeah. I mean, also the developer's problem too, just making the
Yeah.
game like worse and worse over time.
Yeah. Eh, I think this also goes into a question too for everyone here. Do you think at least game developers should focus on making the game more esports friendly, or do you think that's not like an important value or important to like develop towards?
What is esports friendly?
Like if anything, like the whole purpose of the game itself is so that it is supposed to be monetized enough to make it into an esports, essentially. Like in this case, take example for Valorant. That game from the ground up was built around the fact that people would be playing this game like everywhere else, both casually and professionally too. Henceforth, you have numbers that look very similar to like this over here. Where's my Microsoft Paint? That's what I get when I alt tap too much. Oh, let me delete that. Here's the Valorant statistics. I love actually looking at statistics. This is actually very interesting.
Indeed, very.
Yeah, you can definitely see as well from like 2020 to 2023. I don't know when Valorant actually started off too, but this is in this case you look on there's Valorant Champions 2022 or Champions League. But clearly there's like a very increasing trend of people watching Valorant. Now, because Loy, you've been playing Valorant a lot too for I've said
On and off.
I'll say
Yes, on and off.
on off too. Now, in this case, if you were to like explain to us too, like what makes Valorant like more people should play, or what makes Valorant like interesting enough for people to keep on watching?
I'll say first of all, it's similar to CS:GO in the concept that it's a tactical shooter.
Mm-hmm.
But if you on top of that, all these agents have like special abilities to to either gain intel by through the use of like recon, so they can just literally get a drone, or there's like, so I'm gonna give you an example. Let's just say, because there's an agent called, let's just say there's an agent called Sova, right? He's more of gathering intel. You find out where the enemy's position and everything. So you get to see this gameplay. Oh, like this guy is gonna drone in, right? This is gonna find intel. He's gonna mark them with a drone, and that blinks about 3 times, so you can see them through the wall. So that gives information. That gives the team the information to either hit that site or do a fake, or split like 3-2 to like another site just to cover their backside. Kind of like that deal. Once they have that information and they want to go all in, every other like agent will have some kind of ability that will help clear the site and take the site to like plant the bomb, essentially.
Essentially, what he described is it's pretty much wall hacks for like 3 seconds.
In a way, it's not technically wall hacks. Like it's just you have to hit the thing.
Yeah,
like it
there's still some skill involved.
Yeah, there's definitely skill involved in Valorant. There's like lineups and everything, so you can be far away, and like these like people fucking know how like to like throw these around, like even CS:GO, you can throw a flash, and you perfectly timed flash will fucking kill, murder the whole team. Like you can pop out and just like bop bop, then you clear the site, and it's like that. It's just essentially, it's basically more, would I say it's more fast paced? I say you're able to
like in this case there are rounds that go by quicker, essentially. Not necessarily fast, but there's a potential that it can just go by really quick.
It could. I mean, another thing is more you can maybe character design, because this is not like your basic, see it like your basic soldiers, because in CS:GO you have like uniform soldiers, like in uniform essentially, but in Valorant there's like a bunch of cool agents that dress like in their certain style. So that's very appealing. Like visual aspect can play a part. Like how the character plays can appeal to people,
Mhm.
and that can also translate into watchability because this, you might want to see like an aggressive agent go in your site and maybe see like a crazy ass team play to where they execute multiple ultimates in succession. Then they can clear that site, kill, then get the crowd hype because Valorant can get hype. So
Yeah.
let me, because I watched like quite a few like tournaments, and it does get hype. So it's very fun to watch because they have all these abilities, and it's really cool to see that all these players put
Mhm.
in the time and dedication to like execute these because
Yeah.
they're so precise. Like they hit it like 1, 2, 3, it's like done. Like they're not stuttering or anything. They just execute flawlessly.
Yeah. So if anything, this is also again like League of Legends does have moments like that too, where like you appreciate in this case the pro players like actual skill of like working together to execute like a freaking like amazing plan.
It's
But
amazing, yes.
yeah, but there's also like again like a lot of obvious like trends that is occurring too. That's like not keeping the players or not keeping the viewerships required, only because of the fact that I think in general too the skill ceilings for like League of Legends players have gone exorbitantly high. That like any new people that want to at least get into the game, they honestly can't because of skill and alone, and also they don't have the financial for it just because right now LCS right now apparently too, based off what I remember reading about this too, can't actually like get a spot, or you can actually buy out like another team's spot in the LCS based on what I remember, unless you're like the last place team. Then at that point you either get relegated or another team actually fills in your place, which is actually something that I've noticed too that's actually different from Valorant, is the fact that how their teams are actually moving up and down, such as there is always going to be like smaller league teams that is always competing to take the next spot to play like professionally. So in any like professional events that happen for Valorant, the lowest performing teams will get relegated. And then they will have to fight their way to the either defender spot or they lose the spot to the person that beat them. So therefore a new team actually enters the fold. Now this could give you a mixed bag of like, oh, are these teams good or are they just always bad? More times than not, you don't know until you actually see them play. But due to the nature of Valorant, anything can go. It's not as like that wild card of like a upset versus like any other games too. We'll talk about upsets because this is more or less I'm building up to something. But here in Valorant, it's mostly like player knowledge is how a lot of these tournaments and how a lot of these games are actually won. And this can also translate to League of Legends too. What actually helps them win the games is them like having game knowledge. Essentially, who in this case has a bigger knowledge check versus the other, that kind of shit. And now, if anything, I'll open up the floor for questions for you, Michael. Like, out of like us and Lloyd like describing all this, what do you think?
There's a lot more going on in esports than I was initially aware of.
Oh yeah,
Buying out your position?
yes.
This sounds whack. What is that?
Yeah.
What?
So there's like a common thing that's happening too. This is primarily for like a specific LCS team that's either in like 5th or 6th place. They would forever be in that spot too. And it's just like, okay, clearly they're really terrible. Or actually, no, not even 5th to 6th. It's like the most like worst team that you could think of in NA. But they never actually like leave the split, essentially. Like you still see them around like more times than not. And it's just like these guys are doing terrible too. Why are in this case like is there not another team to like take their place? Because obviously they're not performing. Like with the sports like mindset too. If you're not up to the performance needed to play at this level, you shouldn't be like there to begin with. And that spot should be taken by someone else that is wanting to meet up that challenge.
Yeah.
In this case, last place too, we can meme on the fact, oh, this team sucks, but it's meant to like showcase like where you yourself as a player kind of stands. with like the rest of like the league. And obviously too, you could take it either way too, either the loser's mentality or the winner's mentality, where you're gonna keep on improving yourself, or the loser's like, well, I guess I just suck. Like there are, in this case, players that do think that. And it's also sort of less like what's going on with Challenger. Now, albeit this is not a broad statement to say that every Challenger teams, their only goal is that they understand they suck and they're just here to collect paycheck. That's not a broad statement I'm making, but it could be. Anyways. But it's like a general too. Every one of these players want to make a name for themselves. It's in a way too that if it wasn't for the fact that there's like a whole other business side that actually like is ruining the esports team, I think a lot of these players would actually see like very interesting potentials, essentially. Now, this is also going to bring into a point too where there's another genre of fight esports, really, that I feel like in anything, they're the ones that actually like brought awareness to it, and then League of Legends is what made it popular. And that is, in this case, fighting game esports. Now, do I? Yeah. Let me go into a small history of fighting game esports. Fighting games were never originally meant to be an esports to begin with. Let me make that clear. Because when you think of fighting games, what do you think, Michael?
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. And most of those games too, back in when we were kids too, or even before that, when probably like, let's say you
Tekken.
had like older siblings and whatnot. Yeah, Tekken, everything. All those fighting games were available to play at an arcade. Now, the best thing to hear about it too is that there will be times too where these arcades would host tournaments, not by the arcade shop owners, but usually communities to themselves that like go there every now and then, like locally. They will set up like small local tournaments, be like, hey guys, we're going to be setting up tournaments, but there's only a few machines. Like whoever wants to participate, line up your quarters on the screen. That is essentially what the whole arcade thing was, that if you want to play next in like the tournament rounds too, you put up your quarter next to like the winner. Eventually it became much more popular depending on which area you go to, where some arcade shops actually had to re-renovate the place too to accommodate like more people that are playing just fighting games. And then there was like a whole esports tournament that went around there too. And next thing you know, a lot of people were like saying like, man, everyone here in NA is playing so awesome, but what are like people from other countries are like? Because a lot of like the fighting games too, they feature like people from other nationalities. And it's just like, for them, they ask the questions, what if we set up tournaments where we could fight against like these players too? And then henceforth, that's where like EVO came in. EVO is an international based fighting game tournament. Most of the time, it's hosted in Japan, Korea, or here in America. But if anything, it is a whole event that's based around just fighting game tournaments for any games that come on, from Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, even other Arc System games like Guilty Gear Strive or Melty Blood. Like any fighting games you could think of. Hell, even the most recently too, they brought back they brought back a dropped game from 10 years ago, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, featured again.
Ultimate Marvel is like Capcom 3, bro.
Yeah. It's like, holy shit. Now, Michael, how much do you think the viewership was when EVO 2023 dropped?
Peak.
I knew it's definitely gonna be a lot.
A solid 3.
A solid 300,000. No, probably 20-30,000.
It is around 3.7 million people viewing the streams.
Wow, of course I thought I was going to overshoot it, or maybe, but I definitely not undershoot it by that much.
Yeah, but given the fact too that EVO itself is an international event, so you have not only North American viewers, you have like every viewers from around the country. Hell, the spike in viewership also came from the fact too that we are actually seeing India or like other Middle East countries are actually participating as well, a region that we are never used to seeing, and they're participating, and that gets us even more hype.
Yeah, I think I'm just so used to like Twitch maximums you viewers, like usually in streams, and you never really see it peak terribly much.
Yeah.
So that's just where my expectation was at. But
Yeah.
that over a million, that's insane.
Yeah, if anything, this is like combined viewership, be split between like many different games. Because when you look at individual games, it makes sense. But because this is like a whole big event itself too,
Mm-hmm.
3.7 million views is not bad, really. With also around
That's definitely a lot.
18,000
No,
attendances,
Well, that's
18,000 players attending the events.
not bad is an understatement. That's fucking.
Yeah, I like how he was
fucking
just like,
great.
yeah, that's not bad at all. It's like
That's
it's like,
fucking great.
oh
dude.
my god.
3.1 million. That's
3.7.
a fucking 3.7. Even better. Even
No.
fucking better. I was wrong,
God
but it's
damn.
even better.
Now, if anything, it's like a better question being like, so here's my take about like, I feel like in this case, fighting games are essentially like much better to watch for a casual viewer versus like all the examples that I have given, right? First of all, in any fighting games that you play, it is always a 1 versus 1, a player versus player. That is it. They duke it out from their port. It's like essentially you're watching a boxing match, essentially.
Yeah.
With the caveat of, in this case, some of these players can be sponsored by teams, but a lot of times too, a lot of these players just come in from their own volition. They just come in to participate. There's no reason for them, like, or there's no like contractual obligation that they may have based on some players. They probably will, especially Daigo with like some $1 million contracts with other brands that he has associated with it. But that's like most players in general. But really, if you look at the bottom line of like some like the newer upcoming players, they could actually participate with like these veteran players. Like they could be at even playing field and they don't need to have like a prestige in order to like actually participate. And a lot of times too, the people attending, there is like an admission cost to actually get in. But in this case, those admission costs go directly into the prize pool. So if anything too, let me give you in this case a prize pool like mock of this. How much do you think right now let's say Tekken 7, how much do you think their prize pool was during EVO 2023?
Okay, I'm done undershooting. I'm gonna say 4.3 million.
Actually, it's around 25,000. Actually, hold on. Let's see this.
Oh.
Minimum prize pool of 25,000. You're wrong again. But here's the thing about this. At the end of the day of the prize pool, the player that wins that prize, they get to keep it. They don't have to split that. Because that is essentially what's going on with a lot of like the more team-based esports teams. A lot of times the prize pool is like, oh, this is actually a lot, but then you have to think about, oh, they got to split it within the players, or they have to split it within like the companies or the supporting groups as well as the prize pool.
Yep.
So it's like essentially that prize itself gets cut up so much in these team-based esports that in this case, these pro players have to live by contracts. Here with like the fighting games, most of them say, fuck it, we gonna find out if we're gonna win money today or not.
Fuck it, we ball.
Yeah, essentially.
Ballin', we fuck.
So at least for me, this is coming from me. I'll be heavily biased on this. I prefer watching like fighting game esports just because of the fact that it carries the same things that we talked about previously. There's a whole knowledge base because we have played a game and we understand the game too. And B, all the pro players that we watch, they're exceptionally way better than us. But we can at least appreciate what they're doing because we understand the game because they have a better understanding than us. But not to the point as well that we look at the game, it's like, oh god, I don't even know how the fuck he pulled this combo off. And essentially, it's very much easy to watch. The best way to look at it. And there's been a bigger push for a lot of fighting games too. A lot of people will be biased about this. This is going to be off topic for today, but fuck it. A lot of people are in this case are a little bit biased in like a lot of developers wanting to make the games easier for people to play. For those that say that like, no, don't do that, you got to make sure that like the pro players are happy about it too. It's like, my guess is this, or my hot take is this: if the pro players are still willing to like learn the game too, I don't see why not that the game should be easier.
True.
Because for a time too, before Evo 2023 or like 2022 or 2020, we've had a problem in this case trying to retain like players before too, because half the time when you think of fighting games, it's probably the most complicated game that you've ever played, because you see like all the tactics, all the strategy, or all the mental games that these pro players do. And a lot of times people do go into playing these fighting games with the wrong intentions too. By not wrong as in like, oh, I'm here to just only make money and whatnot too. Everybody's there to make money. That's the thing. What a lot of people don't understand when they start playing a game is like, what should they practice first over like general game knowledge? Just because having that general game knowledge will take you a long way.
Indeed. Build a foundation.
Yeah. It's like a lot of times that was like the problem before, but nowadays too, people are like spreading more awareness. They're opening their arms up for more new players to join the fold. And essentially, we have never been thriving as hard as we were too. Hell, Evo itself is a tournament that was mostly just crowdsource funded, essentially. The only companies that would ever sponsor them was like Red Bull. And maybe a Sony every now and then. But again, out of all the esports scenes too, fighting game players tend to be the most poorest of them. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
True. It is true.
This is not as a diss, but in this case, the amount that how much like even no matter where you come from too, they don't care. They love playing the game. The money is just there to like reward them for them loving the game.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially that's why like right now this year alone we've seen so many great moments coming from there too. Hell, if you look at it in this case, what makes esports actually important to people, look up Evo moment 37. That is in this case what was quintessential of what made fighting games or esports become on everybody's radar, and then League of Legends just took it to like the actual professional market. Anyways, that's me kind of going off my soapbox of me being biased about fighting games. I'll let you guys have like any questions about that.
Oh yeah. Gonna fire fist.
But yeah, Michael, what do you think about like all this?
I mean, like I said, there's I played a lot of like the games that are on esports, League, Mortal Kombat, things of those natures, but I've never really like watched a whole lot of it. Like I think the most I've ever watched of esports was whenever I was playing League, and a little bit of Valorant whenever I was doing Valorant.
Yeah.
But I never knew like the depth of the things that are going on within esports in general.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just because like I never paid attention to them too much.
Yeah. If anything too, let me know too, because like we'll set up like an Evo watch party at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was fun to do as well. But to bring back to the point too, here's something that is a question, but it's also something that I want you guys to think about as well. Do you think right now why a lot more people are not watching esports as often, or in this case, not a lot of people in NA care much about esports, is because of the fact that you think they're too brand friendly?
Too brand friendly?
Yeah.
Brand friendly. I don't. Okay, well, my personal opinion is that they absolutely suck, and the way they run their teams is beyond garbage. That's why I stopped watching.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you recruit good players and still suck that much dick?
Because at least with fighting games, you could literally just go in, if you get dicked on, well, there it is.
Yeah, that's your own problem. That's a personal problem. That's a literal personal problem in fighting games.
Yeah, you can't blame anybody else in the team. It's literally you.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I like fighting games more because of that. Like it's just that one player you root for instead of a whole team.
Yeah,
It's
think
a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace. But I think for me, like what actually made me like, I think for me, like esports in fighting games is much more enjoyable for me to watch over esports. Only because here's actually the fucked up part about it too. I think it's actually much more enjoyable if you have a lot of like player drama involved.
I mean, I'm
Like-
sure you get plenty of that with teams.
Oh yeah, definitely you did, but you'd start to see less and less of that as it goes by.
I mean, they're just hiding it.
Yeah, they're at this point
And
just
then
hiding it.
whenever everybody finds out, that's when they just
Yeah.
release the news.
It's all behind the scenes now.
Yeah, it's all behind the scenes.
All
Here
behind
in,
the scenes until people figure it out.
yeah, here in like a lot of the fighting games, there were people that were actually like willing to scrap each other right in front of the camera in live stream. Like there were moments that it would actually get that crazy back then too, and a lot of times too, you would even have stuff like grudge matches too. That was fun to watch.
Did they actually fight?
I mean, at some point they might as well be, but at the same time, due to the nature of the fighting games too, they knew that at first, like if you lost and you swung at him IRL too, you just at this point admitted defeat on both terms. One, that you lost the game, and B, you lost even composure of like being a respectable person. Like imagine just beating someone up in a video game. Essentially, like everybody knows what they're doing is playing in a video game, but obviously there will be people that'll be too caught up in like the heat of the passion of them liking this game. I don't blame that at all. But obviously, that was also sort of like the most entertaining piece for watchers. I'll say, for example, there was a very much a popular grudge match that happened during Marvel vs. Capcom 2 era. I think it was between Filipino champ and I forgot the other name. I Heart Justice? Nah, that's not right. I think it was Chris G. Yeah, it was between Chris G and Filipino champ, where they had like essentially online and offline too. They've always talking shit to each other in front of their faces to the point too where like the Chris G literally says, "All right, post up, bitch.
Oh my
Let's
gosh.
fight this out." And then next thing you know, they said like the fighting game tournament, or no, just a singular fighting game match that garnered so much opinions because both of them are quite respected players, and they have a lot of following too.
Mhm.
So essentially, when they said that there was going to be this grudge match, everybody tuned in to see what happened, and then it was a show. I forgot who wanted that one, but all I know is that like it did end up in this case wanted to having like a very much a soured face at the end. It's like fuck, I lost. Because it was essentially both sides talking a lot of shit, and they were like the highest amount of ego possible. Now, there was a similar situation with that, but it's also like in a lot of like early League of Legends too. In this case, the infamous Dyrus just going eat shit. I was like,
Oh
get the
yeah,
fuck out of
I've
here.
seen that. I've seen the clip.
Yeah, it's like, get the fuck out of here. It's like nobody else would have caught that too, because half the time the audio for like players' comms is not turned on. But I really wish that they would turn on the comms for that too, because we would hear some absolute hilarious shit going on.
But I mean, all these players, all they do is cuss, so that's why they don't like. That's why
Yeah.
the auto comms aren't always on.
Yeah, at least with fighting game tournament, it's more or less like it's cursing, but it's like with the added drama of like because it's like a 1v1 sport.
Yeah, understandable. But I mean, that's why they gotta
Yeah.
keep it like,
PG.
you know, PG as possible.
Yeah, PG as possible, even though the LCS guy
PG-13
sponsored by
really.
Bud Light.
Yeah, they were against that in the beginning. Believe
Yeah,
it or
they
not.
were. Yeah, they were. And then they pulled a 180 on that.
Of course, bro. They need money. Check their
Yeah. Look, here's the thing
money
too.
gets you into anywhere.
Yeah, here's the thing though. Any like alcoholic beverage company sponsor Evo, you're gonna have a lot of players that will, in this case, don't mind if you come around. Like I said, we are the poorest of like the esports community. Hell, the prize pool for each player was around like 10 grand. But hey, at least they get to keep the 10 grand. And also bragging rights. Essentially, that's what a lot of these do. And I feel like the way how I probably was wording it too is that like, I think in most cases too, esports that are based on like, not from the community, and if it's like esports that's like artificially made, like in this case, the developer is the one that makes the league, like in this case, Apex Legends or Riot Games. They will have like mixed results of like, not a lot of people care about it. But when you see like fighting games too, most of them too are mostly just fighting game lovers too. Hell, you do have developers that do chip into the prize pool every now and then, but it's like it's always not to the extent to like how Riot or EA Games does with their esports scene. That's the other crazy thing about like how much I think like fighting games I believe is way more popular to watch versus like others. However, I can't say that and then see like CS:GO number of viewership hitting around 1 million constantly. Yeah. I can't say there's like good correlation here. But hell, at least that's my take about it too. I love fighting games. I think it's a great like esports to like watch, even if you don't know like fighting games in general. Hell, if you don't know any of the terms too, there's literally a lot of like public resources available too. There's, I believe, called the FGC dictionary, where if you hear like a commentator say something that you don't understand, you can look up that phrase and then it can tell you what it means and what it belongs to in the game, in context of the game. So at least for me, I see this as great. And also in the past not year, but just in the past few months alone too, fighting game players have been eating extra well with the release of Street Fighter 6, the announcement of Tekken 8, and Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah.
Oh, and also a lot of like updates to like Guilty Gear Strive, making it into a better game now. So I don't know. If anything, what is your guys like better take on like, do you think right now in the NA scene alone too that just not a lot of people just care about esports, or?
I would say so. But like I said, it's less. NA esports is less about the game and more about the business side of things nowadays, and that's what really turns people away. Like it turned me away. That's what I've said before, right? So I think, I mean, it also depends. I mean, fighting games are very nice. It's really just about the games and just about a bunch of people who just come from all parts of the world, just coming together and fighting each other.
Yeah.
Teams are too organized, too business based. It's no longer just a bunch of guys coming together playing a game they love. It's just a business.
Business is ruining
but
everything.
But at the same time, it's not a business in the same way as real sports. Real sports is really it's about the game as much as it is about the business. Esports has not reached that level yet. Esports is way more about the business than the game, and that's why it's just really hard to watch.
Yeah. And it's like they're doing everything they can to like try to like make themselves appearance wise be like a professional sports. But obviously it's like that, I don't know what they would mean by that in the first place, because even though too the like, yes, you can see like NFL and like the NBA stuff too, you will still see like, even then there will be players too that will also talk a lot of smack to each other.
Oh, for damn sure. Damn sure, dude.
So
absolutely.
So here's the thing about it. I feel like they are mostly widely popular if in this case you kind of showcase or you allow the players just to say what they want.
Oh, dude, people love it.
I mean, technically not really. They still have to follow like
they will still have to
rules.
follow. They will still have to follow.
Friendly banter. How about that?
Yeah.
They had some friendly banter.
Yeah.
Not like straight up like threatening people, but some friendly banter on the field. Then come together.
Yeah. At least for me, that's what I take out of it too. If anything, a lot of times too, I think right now a lot of the esports, there's not like the sense of like the drama part of it, which unfortunately is the downfall of most Americans. Why in this case they actually care in the first place is the fact that they love the drama.
Yeah.
Albeit as like it doesn't really, it shouldn't really serve a purpose into like esports, but it does. That's also how we get viewership.
The second reason for esports declining, in my eyes, is also that the game keeps changing.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at football, basketball, soccer, the game doesn't change. If it does, it's like very, very small changes to the rules. But
Yeah.
overall, the game stays the same. It's not like League, which changes literally every day. Like it's a new patch every day, just doing some like balancing changes and stat changes and all that. It's ridiculous. So that's why it's also very hard to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
And
you want to as a viewer, you want to be able to understand the game as well and follow like what these pros are doing, but you can't do that if it just keeps changing.
mhm. Yeah. I think that was also like a lot of like criticisms too about like a lot of modern quote unquote like games that like garner like esports attention is the fact too that like they can't really retain their players for that long either because of the fact that like what you said too, Victor, they keep changing the games every now and then too.
Yeah, I mean CS:GO, how often does it change? I mean, like if I go back to it, I'm sure it will be generally the same as when I started playing it like years ago.
Mm. Yeah, and now in this
I
case
mean,
you got
even
the
when I
rise of
watch,
CS2.
even when I see CS:GO like tournaments, it does generally look the same to me.
Mhm.
I think that's the biggest problem. Maybe it's not about the business, but maybe it is literally just the game changes too much.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like if the game changes too much as well, or yeah, I think it's the reason too that like I think a lot of these games too, they're forced to having to change stuff too to like keep content going. But in this case, that's pretty much based on the fact too that like I think right now modern esports too, they're not for the players and instead they're for the companies.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you can see the consequences of that decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is also sort of less again why I do believe too, like me watching fighting games and me being biased about that. I still think it's really way more fun to watch too because half the time too,
You know,
yes, the games do change every now and then too, but it's like not to the extent to like be game breaking. Obviously, they will have to
or
like make some changes if like another character just becomes oppressive in all regions, i.e., JP
yeah,
from
that's
Street Fighter
understandable.
6.
That's understandable, you know,
Yeah,
like,
right.
but
Mm.
I mean, if you actively change mechanics and then change how a player works, that or change how a character works, I'm sure that would be something that turned people away.
Yeah, here's something that actually like there was a big change that happened in Street Fighter 5, but it was a change that was really needed and a lot of people wanted. They didn't actually take away anything. They actually added another new mechanic to the game that in this case a lot of pro players are just like, "Oh shit."
Mm.
And it's anything, it just unlocks like more things. It doesn't make in this case one player better than the other. It just throws in literally a monkey wrench into a title or into the game
Yeah.
without like taking away anything, which I feel like was something that actually did happen with like League of Legends too, where like they probably did want to like add new features to it, but if they add too many features it will just become like a feature creep at that point where the game becomes
Very
way
much
too
so.
complicated to do. So if anything, I think like games like that, they're literally set themselves up for failure of like trying to figure out like how to truly balance the game by in this case like ah shit, there's no balance at this point, time to redo everything.
Mm.
That is at least the state that I see how League of Legends is, and in this case the lower viewership, it just kind of shows you like a lot of people are just tuning out of the game because either A, the hope for NA is practically dying, B, not a lot of people actually care about League of Legends anymore too, they're kind of leaving. There are still people that do play it for sure, and it's probably still is a fun game, but that's not what the mass general people think.
Oh, it's the most toxic community in the fucking world. It's a proven statistic.
Statistic.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, and you would even think too, fighting games too, where it's like trash talking between like players was going to be toxic. It was at some points, but if anything, that was just it. It didn't even like stop players from like actually like participating because if anything, a lot of those players that if there was a toxic player, they would just say, "All right, fuck it, back yourself up, then, boy. We're gonna run this set."
Yeah, dude. Fighting
Yeah,
game is literally 1v1, and that's gonna be a huge skill issue.
yeah. Which, if anything, that's honestly like I guess I can also see in your perspective too, Victor, where like it's technically like a different change of pace to watch as well, as like you kind of just see like in terms of stakes too, more players have more stakes on the line compared to like a lot of like the esports. I think that's the other thing too. At least like modern like team-based esports, some of the stakes that they have aren't necessarily like that bad.
What kind of steaks? I'm just kidding.
The ribeye stakes.
Mm.
Very good.
No, but if anything, what do you think about that take, Victor? Do you think that in this case, like the stakes for a lot of these other esports are not as severe compared to like other games, and because of like the lack of severeness of like the stakes, the viewerships is not that well translated?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm gonna be completely honest. Like these games with low viewership do have high stakes.
Hmm.
It's just, I mean, every game has a high stake. You know, you're competing to stay in the league. If you're bad, if you suck, then you're not gonna be in the league anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
How's that not a high stake?
No, that's a fair point.
that's yeah. I mean, it doesn't only apply to esport. That also applies to like some sports. For
Every
example,
competitive sport should have there
yeah. I
there are
mean,
some high stakes for sure.
well,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna. I know this is like kind of off topic, but it does pertain to how it should like relegate something. Because in soccer, there's a league called the Premier League, and every year there's going to be teams that are regulated and they go down a division. And any team that does good in like Division 2 or something, they'll go up to the like Premier League. So that keeps like top teams in within that region. So that you're playing the best of the best like each year.
Mhm.
So that's just a little, little thing they do over there in Europe.
Yeah, which I really wish that like they do like showcase that more, because I think that would be interesting. Like if anything too, I think right now what it is the issue is that like a lot of like these team based teams, they're filled up with, in this case, just organization teams. Essentially what it is. Like you're not following just 5 people or 3 people to watch. You're following, in this case, the organization itself.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I think that's, in this case, what I think fighting games has over the other. You're not watching, in this case, like fucking 3 college students or 5 like retired old men or middle-aged men fighting or participating in like tournaments. But I think what it should happen too is that, like, I don't know. I think LCS, it should be, in this case, a much more regional based now, where like each region too, they can have like smaller local tournaments that happen.
I feel like that
I mean, that's
it
fine.
would be good.
Yeah, I mean that is like
That's
my
fine,
opinion.
but then it could be like soccer as well, where there's like regional tournaments and stuff, and then there's the world tournament. Like
Yeah,
I I don't know. It kind of is the same as soccer, so I
yeah,
don't see how or why it should
yeah,
be different.
yeah. That's a fair point. Anyways, that was just
Maybe
at least like how I thought, like at least to fix the NA scene, because let's be honest, too, not a lot of
But
people would
then,
watch like worlds for NA teams anymore.
at the same time, you don't watch World for NA teams, but nobody watches NA teams, or the viewership is going down in NA because NA teams are just bad in general.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not even a hot or trash take about it. It's just objectively true.
It is very.
Like even our best
EU
team that we
teams are
thought,
better than us.
yeah,
How do you think we could become better?
Mhm.
We need to play the game instead of being a business. My honest opinion. Because we're not playing the game, we're just making money.
yeah,
That's not great.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
I mean,
in
let's
some
be honest.
aspects, yes, you need to make money, but it's
Mhm.
not good for the sport, like
Yeah.
esport.
Yeah, like let's be honest here. I'm pretty sure a lot of these pro players too, they probably do like the game a lot as well, and they want to be good at it. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of those players get lost in the weeds of like essentially what seems like a business hell.
No, no, that's the
Mhm.
problem. I mean, like they join these. They're good individually. They're good as part of a team. But when they join these teams, they have to follow rules. You know, they can't just do what they do.
Mhm.
They can't just do what they did to get to where they're at. You know, they have to follow the rules of the team.
Yeah. It's one of those things that like it's disheartening because we've been watching like the at least the LCS esports stuff for quite some time too. And even then we kind of dropped it like a few years back because we were seeing that trend. And really if you kind of just ask anybody that plays League 2, they would mostly agree too that like yeah, there's not really like there's nothing to look out for when it comes to like NA scene.
No, it's pretty much just at the bottom.
Yeah. And it's not even a fact too that like, oh, these imports should make the team better. And obviously everybody universally knows too that like that's not how you make teams better. You have to train like local talent. But it's like the argument being is like there's not enough local talent.
Well, did you ever try making the talent?
Yeah. That's also the thing too. I think that really goes back to like what Victor says too. A lot of these teams or orgs really, they don't want to like spend the money or the effort to like make like talent, even though the fact too like 100 Thieves has like a whole fucking gaming lab. And I'm like a gaming facility. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I think a good
Oh,
amount of
shit.
these teams have like gaming facilities. It's crazy. Like Team Liquid has like a real expensive one too.
Mm-hmm. But it's mostly like from what I remember too, they were sharing space with like Microsoft, or Microsoft helped build out their building.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's still expensive.
We'll
Yeah.
fact check that.
Yeah, we'll fact check that at some point. But at this point, it's irrelevant to the conversation. Such as the fact that, yeah, I don't know, North American teams just feel weird, or they seem really weird when they go about like how they conduct business in general.
Mm.
Because obviously, too, like here's the other thing too. There's nothing wrong with like buying imports, right? Completely
Definitely
nothing
not.
wrong with that.
I
But
mean, yeah,
it's
nothing
the
wrong
issue.
with just signing people. It's just the issue is they don't mesh well with our team, and nobody seems to understand that you need a team to work together in order to win games.
Yeah. Like in this case, let's say, for example, let's say for some miraculous reason somebody signed Faker to play the NA team. Here's the thing about it. Sure, Faker is like the most common or the most popular and also the best like League of Legends player, quote unquote. Do not take anything for what I say seriously about that. But Faker in himself, like his skills, it only translate really well to the fact that he knows that he has a good team that he's playing with.
He definitely has a good team.
Like in this case,
Mhm.
like what happened with the mistaken Cowboys XD.
I don't see how that pertains to the.
No, it doesn't. I don't. I was just throwing shade for no reason. My bad.
Very off topic, but continue.
But yes, essentially, it really is just that. A lot of like the imports that we're seeing too, like, oh yeah, Korean players are definitely the best. Like, it's just a one track my notion of like, oh, if I just hire this Korean player, that means my team will play better. It's just like, yes, but no.
No, but no. There's no yes in that.
Okay, fair enough. Oh yeah,
Like I
because
said,
at the
man,
same,
one
Mhm.
person doesn't make the team better. It takes the
Yeah.
whole team to make the team better.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess what I was gonna say about that too is just like, yes, if anything, individually that import player might be really good, but probably from your previous statement, they will have to like follow the rules of the organizations on that team. So if anything, it might actually hinder them.
And they have to follow the play style of the team too, and that could be drastically different from how they play. And that's why a lot of players that we like recruit and sign on are essentially garbage in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's more like they're not like garbage as an individual player. It's just that they're put into an environment where they're not being like their skill set's not being utilized to the max. So,
But it can't be because
It-
the play
yeah.
style of Americans are just completely different.
yeah, like I'm just saying that they're just being hindered by the playstyle.
Yeah.
Ah, man. Yeah. If this also puts a lot of things in context for you, Michael, yeah, this is just
Come on,
how where
America,
we're
step
at.
up.
It's like there really there's no way for them to actually step up. Nobody really cares about it anymore. This has been happening
Mhm.
for like the past few years. If anything, people are so jaded that at this point they kind of turn away from League because of the fact that like North Americans are just not at the field to play at. There was even the argument too that like Riot might actually pull funding from like the North American scene in general just because of how poor performing they are.
Not
Dang.
surprising, bro. We're almost as bad as like wildcard teams.
Yeah.
And wildcard teams are somehow getting better.
Yeah. Like if anything, like that alone is like that is really bad. If Riot does pull like funding and this case just pulls the tournament away from the North American scene that only focuses on
Oh,
like
let 'em pull
the
'em,
other
bro.
regions. But at the same time, you would understand like the decision. That's the thing. It would be bad.
100%.
It would definitely be bad, but oh my god, I don't know. Like with you, Michael, I do wish that they can just like outright play better in general. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case for a while too, as a lot of teams right now are going through a lot of hardships because a lot of sponsors are actually pulling their deals. As you know, esports itself, you could definitely say that it can have like a multi-million-dollar like potential for a lot of the
Mhm.
people that are invested into it. But obviously too, they need to make sure that the scene that they're going to put their money into or their advertisement into, at least to make the scene interesting. In this case, the viewership numbers, essentially. If you don't get enough views, well, you're not going to get as much advertisements.
Mhm.
Indeed.
Plain and simple.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there any other comments that you guys would like to make?
No.
I think
Oh.
NA needs to be better.
What I've
And
heard,
it's
and I
trash.
agree.
Yeah.
Like
At
if
least-
you want there to continue to be like an NA team, you gotta buckle up. I guess.
Buckle
like
up, buckaroo.
We just
Yeah.
gotta form our own team, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. God damn.
Never.
But at
And
least
then
North
wonder
America
why
does have a
wonder how
chance.
they make money.
We'll form it without Loy then.
God damn. Anyways,
Yeah, do it.
there is at least a North American, like any North American player does at least have a chance in a couple of esports. Because hey, Apex is apparently like something that we're really good at, which is good for them. But unfortunately, too, they are tied with the org, and the org disbanded them because
Yeah.
NRG was not making money.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, it feels bad too because knowing like these players too, they did everything they could to like win like these competitions, and then to have their own organization leader say, "Nah, we're just gonna disband you." I was like, "What?"
Mhm.
Like, how
it's
dare
rough.
you?
It's
Yeah.
rough, I know.
Yeah,
But that's also the issue. I mean,
like I think
they're also a
modern-day
business.
esports-
That's the
yeah.
other problem.
Yeah,
It's
there are also
it's a
businesses
problem, but
and-
that's how it has to be. You know, like you have to make money to sustain yourself. You can't just play.
Yeah.
I guess
yeah,
there's a lot of expenses that go on in the background.
Timmy.
yeah. In this case, Michael just found out too that in the average North American LCS team, there is an actual nutrition that's on board or that's on their
Yeah.
table.
They have a personal trainer. They have like a lot of people on their team to like make sure they stay healthy. Essentially,
hmm
Oh yeah.
Man, I miss the days too where I would watch like these fucking league streamers too, like C9 for example. They would just go out to eat Chipotle.
I
I
mean,
miss the
if
days
you-
when it's literally just 5 guys in a house.
Yeah. Just
Oh,
5 guys
yeah.
in a house, and there's only 3 rooms, and one of them was sleeping in a closet. Hey man.
It's
Hey,
tough
man.
out there, dude.
Yeah. Hey man, Sneaky was in this case notorious in like the world scene as well as like the most scariest like AD carry. just because of the fact that no matter how far behind he is, he somehow manages to catch up on you.
Well, he has good fundamentals.
Yeah, that's about it too. That's like why a lot of Worlds players actually did respect Sneaky for that. Like he could play from behind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you
but
can't play from
unfortunately,
behind, then
Yeah.
individual skill is not enough.
Yeah, individual skill is not enough, and C9 was well respectable back then because they actually did have like really good team, or in this case, they were a really good team in
well,
general.
they're still respectable because they're probably the only team in NA that's probably made it out of groups in like several fucking years. To my
Yeah,
knowledge.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's the
No,
other thing, Michael. C9 was the
Mhm.
only team in League of Legends that was able to make it out of groups that they could actually compete in like brackets.
There's also
okay.
the other fun fact about C9. Their first year that they joined, that's also the year that they were able to get into Worlds.
The biggest competition in League of Legends.
A rookie team getting into Worlds.
Yeah, that was pretty much
And
the
they
reason for
made
the
it
love of
to I
C9.
think they made it to quarterfinals. And let me check. Let me make sure. I don't think they got past quarterfinals, but they made it to quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So their team was cracked during that time.
This was again the golden age of watching esports.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Cloud9 made it to quarters, just made it to quarters. But either way, that was for a rookie team, that was
that was
really
a
good
lot.
for them.
Yeah, that meant a lot to like the NA scene in general. Like in this case, there was hope.
Hmm.
There's hope.
But nowadays, too, like none of like the NA teams even made it out of groups. That was like the sad shit that happened. Or if anything,
Indeed.
even if you see an NA team actually make it out of groups, it's usually like C9. More times than not.
Yeah, it usually is C9.
Yeah, C9 somehow always gets out of group, even though sometimes they don't play well.
Yeah, they don't play well, or they're literally in a group of death.
Oh yeah. Like, good luck.
Yeah. But yeah, I think right now the only thing that's really holding back like NA esports is literally the fact that a lot of the organizations are pretty much just running it like a bad business.
Oh yeah.
They're running it like a bad business and not essentially like investing more into like their own individual players. Now, I don't see that as a problem that like these orgs are also like branching out to like other like esports as well. But I think you had a comment earlier too where like it seemed like weird too that like somehow like the LCS or like the league teams get more funding treatment than the other esports leagues. Like I don't remember who it was too, but it was like I think it was TSM that funded all of like the winnings of like other esports competition into their League of Legends teams.
Oh yeah.
And that one was a bit weird. Like essentially too, like once you sign up with an organization too, you're essentially not making money and you're making sure that you have someone that like can help you negotiate around the contract so that you get the most. Yeah, it's a very weird industry, and honestly, it's also probably because again, I think nowadays in North America, like the average viewership is just like we don't want to see like a bunch of fucking like nerds or gamers that are making more money than me.
Yikes, bro.
Yeah.
Maybe that might be
True,
like a bad take about that one, but essentially that is something that I wouldn't doubt that someone has thought about that.
Call them a nerd, bro.
Yeah. And imagine like you get it as like in this case you work your ass off for whatever you do as an engineer or a doctor, and then you watch like something online too and you see like the average salary of this one person is like $2.6 million. I'm like, what the fuck?
Just how it is.
It's like, and these guys are younger than you and they just play games all day. I was like, motherfucker.
You know,
Well,
you would be jealous, but if you understood what actually went
Yeah,
behind the
if you-
scenes, bro, you wouldn't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, you wouldn't even want to be a part of this at all. Like if anything, yeah, for a normal person, that's all they would see. But us, like looking into it, it's just like shit. This is like all types of like weird nonsense going on. Just put on the scene or screen, or just put anybody in like the teams on there and just have them fucking play it out. That's all I care about. Make the credentials like what it is. Like they have to be Diamond 2 or above.
Oh yeah. Are you Diamond 2?
Fuck no, I'm not. Fuck that shit though, too. I don't care enough about League to like actually fucking go through ranked like that.
What?
Yeah.
Rank, bro.
To be
Just
honest,
say
I
it.
don't even care much about it at all. To the point I just don't play the game as often. Maybe like once a month.
I don't blame you, dude. I've been
It's like a time to
on and
start.
off playing.
Yep.
Yeah.
On and off.
Yeah, if anything, my mental health has improved a lot. I'll say the least. Although to be fair though, I was just generally bad. So I don't know if it made it any difference.
You never know, bro.
Yeah, who knows? But I think that this is like a really good like stopping point in here to just like we covered a lot too, and it's just like again, this is how we feel about the whole esports, and we had a lot of interesting things to say about it. But any last comments? I probably said
Come on,
that
America.
10
Last
minutes
comment
ago.
I
Get
made,
your things
NA
together.
needs to be better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still
And-
stand by that. Yeah.
Yeah, NA needs to be better. I mean, that's all we can do. And it's not even just the players. It's just like at this point, the organizations, they want to be serious about this. Invest in
Yeah.
your players. Literally, that is the best way how you're going to make your money. SKT1 did. That's how they got like so much money too.
Invest.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's also how they have so many championships.
Yeah,
True. True.
yeah. Maybe it's also within like North American culture that we're just not that overly competitive in like games in general. Although I say
Maybe
that,
not-
but then there's others.
I don't think so. I think it's just we think because we have money we can just buy talent. And
Yeah.
that's the mistake really.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
agree with that.
Yeah. Well, if anything, if you like what you hear from us, please follow us on our Twitter handles, follow my YouTube and whatnot. Hopefully, I probably should update the thing below to also include our Twitter handle. But until then, have a good evening, guys.
Love you guys.
Hey.
Good night everyone.
Yeah, night. I love y'all.